All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in again for another episode with the Authors Impact Hub podcast. I am your host, Juanita Woodson, founder of the Authors Impact Hub, where we are always bringing new authors on, seasoned authors on, so that we can learn a little bit more about their journeys and then be able to give some insight, feedback, some tips, right, for those who may be thinking about going on the author journey. So tonight I have on with us Ciara Lewis. Of course, I always let the authors do their own introduction, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hello, hello. My name is Ciara, and I'm from Kentucky. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and she thinks she's going on 30. I have written several books. The majority of the books I've been in so far have been anthologies. However, I did just release my first solo book called The Anchor Holds. It is a book of poetry that basically I've been writing and collecting since middle school. I've also just released my first magazine, Fierce and Fearless. That magazine is basically based upon elevating women entrepreneurs. And so I'm really excited about both of these projects and just really can't wait to see them come together.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Congratulations on the launch of both, right? So you have a new book out, you have a magazine out. One thing you did mention is that, so you're not a first-time author, right? This is your first book that you've published on your own, and it's a poetry book. So what inspired you to write poetry?
Truthfully, it really just started coming to me. I've always had a passion for writing since I was little. Like I can remember just sitting down and making up stuff to write, like just little stories or, and by the time I hit middle school, like out of nowhere, I just started getting like these poems that would just hit me out of nowhere and I would just start writing them down. And of course, when I first started writing them, they were a little bit like, I don't want to say kiddie-ish, but not really for people to read, right? That it was like just my start. But as I continued to write, as I continued to like truly hear myself and like really focus on what was going on around me, it allowed those poems to become more personable, more relatable, for people that might be going through a similar situation or, things like that. And so I felt I really think it was somebody asked me this in another podcast that I'd done a while back. Could I see the change from the start of the poems to the end of the poems? And yes, I could really see the growth in my writing. And that was really inspiring, especially when I went back and I read the whole entire manuscript.
Yeah.
Just to be able to see how all that fit together was absolutely amazing.
Okay, awesome. So what are some of the common themes that you talk about in your poetry in this new book?
Well, it's a mixture. There is probably definitely a theme in there that, some people may frown on and just may not get or relate with, and that's okay. Like I said, it's not for everybody, but however, there are poems in there that are for most, people. But we touch a little bit about on relationships. I've got a few poems in there that are based off of children. There's some miscellaneous poems in there just off of random things about life or, however you want to go about it. Domestic violence. Definitely some grief poems on grief. So there's just a lot of different mixture of poems in there. I mean, like I said, I feel like somebody that is struggling right now, and honestly, at this point, it's probably anybody.
Yeah.
But I feel like for anybody that feels like they're struggling in life or they don't fit in or they're not seeing that light, just somebody that needs some hope, encouragement, inspiration, this book is for you. That's basically how I can put it. This book is definitely for you. I've read these poems. I won my first award writing the poem about my grandmother.
Okay.
And a lot of people seem to have been inspired and love the poem. So I'm definitely looking forward to sharing this book with a lot of people.
Yes. And listen, I just have to highlight. So you said the light and hope. So I co-host another podcast called Hope at the End of the Tunnel podcast. And we often talk about the theme of, sometimes people just need to know that there is that light, there is that hope at the end of the tunnel. So it sounds like this book it has something for everybody, because life is not easy, right? We all go through our own different things. Some people may be experiencing domestic violence, or maybe that's, something they've dealt with, experiencing grief. So all of the things. So you mentioned earlier, right, that you participated in anthology projects. So how much did that experience help you in publishing your own book?
A lot. It definitely helped me to stay organized, think carefully about, the process and how I wanted it to look like. Um, envisioning like the what do you call it? The cover of the book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought process that goes into writing. And I think sometimes we kind of forget that.
Yes.
I know I have a couple of times, but like I said, when I started out writing, I was really just writing for myself. I didn't really know, the true meaning behind it. But then
Sure.
for me, it became an outlet. It became my saving grace, my anchor. And that's basically why I called the book The Anchor Holds, because that really is what grounded me. It pulled me through so many different situations. And like I said, I just looking back on it now, it like when I read it, it's like I can remember the exact moment I wrote that poem. Like I can remember exactly what was going on, um, and how I overcame that situation. And so again, to this day, it is still my anchor and basically what has made me the woman that I am now.
Yes, absolutely. So, right, the themes that you talk about, I'm sure
Mhm.
other people can relate to. How much has writing poetry and even getting through this project, because becoming a published author, getting through the process by itself is no easy thing, right? So that's something to definitely celebrate. But are some of the themes that you talk about things that you've experienced personally, and then how did writing help you to overcome those personal experiences?
I feel like a lot of times, well, first of all, I grew up as an only child. And I think that we do suffer from a syndrome at times because it is easy to feel alone, to feel misunderstood, to feel like you don't fit in. Um, and when you're at home, you may not always have somebody to talk to or somebody to play with or what, you know what I'm saying? And so I could just see myself a lot of times being at home, um, not having anyone to talk to, not having anything to do. This was even prior to my daughter being born. And so, your brain just fills up with all these thoughts.
Yeah.
And if we're not doing something with that, if we're not expressing ourselves, our feelings, our emotions, if we're not addressing like what type of mood we are in, it starts to affect us.
Abs-
And like I said, it took me a minute to truly realize the power behind my writing, what it was doing for me. But I remember one day, like I said, when the first poem came to me, I was like, oh man, like I just felt like a whole weight had came off my shoulders. Um, and that was very powerful for me. And so, like I said, the more I started writing, it was like, man, like I'm just feeling really great. Like more and more is coming out. I'm able to breathe. So just and I think a lot of times we have a hard time expressing our words to people. Like we have a hard time verbally saying something to someone. Um, and so again, to me, I've always found writing is easier to express myself and communicate what I'd like to say to someone else if I feel like I can't verbally say it. So
Yeah, that's the theme for me. I love to write a letter. I'm the same way. I can write out how I feel, what I need to say better than I can vocally say it. So I'm with you there. So can you share maybe an example of a poem that gave you clarity and control over your own emotions?
let's see if I got one in here. I did have
And I'm sure you have a lot
this
to do.
one right, this one right here. Um, it's called Inner Self. Um, find your inner self. Don't try to be someone else. For if you try to, you just might find what you have left inside. Don't try and hide. Be proud and show your pride. One day you might fall off and never get back up to ride until you look at what you hide deep down inside. You might find strength to get back up and ride. So keep holding on and stay strong because one day you will find just where you belong.
Oh, yes. I love that. So I know we do this, right? Yes, I love that. So, talking about some more like sensitive topics, how do you approach that? And then how do you maybe recover from the emotions that come with pouring out and writing about those sensitive topics?
Um, Again, for me, it was, like I said, a lot of alone time. So that personal time, that personal space, being
Okay.
able to release all that I had been holding inside, all those thoughts and those feelings, and just all that, and having that paper to be my friend, um, was a whole lot for me. So yes, there was a lot of crying, there was a lot of laughing. Sometimes I would write a poem and I would go through almost every emotion you could possibly think of just because I put it on paper. Um, even a poem that may not necessarily be sad, it triggered me somehow because, like I said, I was holding so much inside and didn't realize it, that by the time I'm getting it out, it's like my body is just like, oh man, finally, like, you
The
know,
weight.
yes, yes. And so my body just seemed like it wanted to just kind of go through everything at certain points because it had been holding so much in. But yeah, that's basically how I would deal with it. Normally when I would write, I would be by myself. It would be early in the morning. Um, and so again, I had that space that I needed to, um, express and release and whatever needed to happen in that moment, of writing.
Yeah, okay. So then can you tell us what does that mantra defined by tragedy, grief, and happiness mean to you?
Overcomer. Yep. You definitely, overcame a lot, defeated, triumphed, and you're still standing. I really think that is the message for me, especially, after writing the poetry and seeing the after effect. That's definitely what it means to me.
Okay. So your writing process, I know you said you've been writing since you were younger, but then when it came to now publishing the book, can you think of maybe some of the challenges that you may have faced, whether in the writing process or in the publishing process, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Um, definitely, definitely some challenges. I can say, however, this this book was particularly a little easier for me than probably most because, like I said, I had already had this collection since I was in high school. However, I will say I did go back through, some of the poems. I may have like brushed up on them a little bit, or polished them up a little bit. Um, just, kind of put them in a strategic order that I would kind of want people to fall in with when they would read the book. Obviously, I wouldn't want to start out with the domestic violence, right? Something so dramatic. I want people to actually see that hope, and the light. And so, there was the challenge of that, like, exactly what do I want this book to look like? What do I want people to see, and what do I want them to feel when they pick this book up? What is it
Mm.
I want them to get when they first open the book? Um, so, those type of thoughts was a little bit challenging, I will say. And I think actually doing the project, putting it in motion, like I said, was very hard for me, because it was very emotional. And the, I, the book is actually dedicated to my uncle and my grandma, who both passed in the year of COVID. And
Okay.
that's the true reason I went on and published the book, because I had promised them for years I would do it. I would do it. I would do it, and never done it. So when my grandma passed, she was the last one that passed. They literally passed like a month and a half apart.
Okay.
I told myself that that was going to be the very first thing I done in memory of her and my uncle, and so I made it happen.
Yes, absolutely. So, what a way to honor their memory, right? And to keep that legacy going strong. So, and I think this is definitely one of those questions because there may be someone who is listening who's thinking about going in their closet, right? I don't know about anybody else, but my mom, she used to keep millions of things, all of our school paper, poems, all the things. And so somebody may be thinking about going and digging through all that stuff like, hey, I have all these poems. I have all these things that I wrote a long time ago. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a book of poetry?
I say go for it. I always tell people to go with what your gut is telling you, whatever you're feeling. And somebody asked me the other day, well, what if somebody doesn't like it, or what? My book is not going to be for everybody, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I did not write the book for everybody. Would it be nice if it was for everybody? Yes, I would love to be able to inspire everybody that I possibly can. Everybody will not have gone down the same journeys or experienced half of the same things that I experienced. Same with anybody that's going to write a book. When you're telling your story, you have to remember it's your story, and you either have to be ready to tell that story or you're not ready to tell that story. Um, I mean, although yes, we should think of the audience that we're trying to target when we're writing, but again, at the end of the day, it's still your story. And the point of you writing that is to tell your story. So you can't let what you think somebody else is going to think or feel when you publish this book and you share your story, because it's not about them.
Right.
It's about your journey. And I think that sometimes people get hung up on that when they are in their writing process or thinking about publishing or sharing their story. So that
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you touched on that because so many people they stop before they even start because of
yes,
those thoughts that go through their mind. Like, what are other people gonna say? And even down to maybe the people who caused you some of the pain that you experienced, they maybe even wonder what are they gonna say. And one thing that
mhm,
I've often said to people, be careful how you treat people because you don't
right.
get to decide. You actually do decide how you end up in my story when I tell it. So be careful how you treat people. So that's what I would say to those that are like, hey, well, I don't want to maybe write this because I'm afraid of what people will say or the backlash that may come because I'm telling my truth. Well, it may free somebody else, you telling your truth. So that's another reason why you definitely have to do it. Yes. So, can you tell us a little bit about? So, I know you write poetry, you've written anthology books, and now you have a magazine that you have launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So the magazine I'm super excited about because this has definitely always been a passion of mine, something I've wanted to do. Just wasn't sure exactly how to approach it. So the magazine, like I said, it's based off elevating women entrepreneurs.
Okay.
However, with that being said, the magazine is to also just give inspiration to any female out there that may need a little bit of lift or some hope or inspiration. Um, but the magazine is going to be set to showcase strong women in business and tell their story, their journey, their challenges, like the raw of exactly how they got from where they are to, or from where they were to where they are now, and provide some tips and strategies to other females that may be wanting to take that journey into their career or an entrepreneurial path or whatever. And we just basically want to be a guiding light, like I said, to assist people that are ready to take that next step, um, who are ready to be unfearful and, you know, jump. That's
Yes.
what we're looking for. Those who are ready to jump, and how can we assist you?
Yes, absolutely. And you've taken leaps of your own, right? With your
Yes.
book, your magazine. So I know those two aspects of your life are not the only hats that you wear. You mentioned that you're a mom. And then outside of those three things, can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day life and how do you balance all of it?
It gets challenging at times. I can say that, especially because I chose to keep my office in my house instead of actually having an office outside of the house. And so I'm already a workaholic, but doing that has been very challenging for me to tell myself, okay, Sierra, like work is over. It's time to relax. It's time to do this. So what I've started doing now, is I try to block off at least 3 days a week, especially like the weekend, to where I'm not having to actually do or fiddle with a lot of work. Um, every now and then I may check an email or I may address something on an email, but I do definitely try to set aside those 3 days to where I do absolutely nothing. Self-care I feel like is very important, and I have only learned how important that is with probably the last 3 years.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I've been running the business. Well, I have two businesses.
Okay.
So my main business is a medical billing credentialing business, and I've been doing that for going on right at 5 years.
So
This business I just started, so probably about, well, I've been writing for about a year now, but as far as my actual business, probably within the last 4 to 5 months. So seeing how important the self-care is has really helped me a whole lot, because I didn't see that before and it was taking a toll on me.
great. Okay, and I know, listen, I can relate. I know so many other people can relate as well. So I'm glad that you found your groove. You find what works for you. Balance is so important in building anything, right? So thank you for sharing that. So are there any upcoming projects? I know you have so many things that you're working on, but is there anything else, any upcoming projects, events, or any goals that you have that you can share with us?
Yes. We also just launched the podcast. So we are actually in the process of actually getting ready to start pushing those out to the public very soon. And we also have some merchandise that will be coming out soon as well. We are in collaboration with another company on actually doing a subscription box.
Mhm.
So we've got some really cool ideas that we're going to be adding into that I really can't wait to share more of that later once we get closer to that deadline with what that's going to look like. But yeah, we've got merchandise, we got the podcast, we got the magazine. Eventually we are going to add some events, especially like some speaking summits and things like that, some workshops. So we do have a lot of things in the work. Again, it's just one of these, like, you'll have to catch up with me just to, see exactly what we're up to and what we're doing. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a full movement, and we've got a lot planned. So again, I'm super excited about it, and definitely can't wait to see how many people we can bring on board.
Awesome. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. So, speaking of catching up with you, how can we connect with you on social media so we don't miss all the amazing things that are happening?
Yes. So you can send me an email at fierceandfearlessentrepreneur2025@gmail.com. My Instagram is fierceandfearlessentrepreneur. And then my website is fierceandfearlessentrepreneur.com.
Yes, and I always end the show. Listen, this has been amazing. So I always end it with this one last question, and that is, what impact do you want your books, your brand, all the things that you do to leave on the world?
Be you. Definitely be you. Um, don't let people keep you from being yourself. Again, basically why that poem Inner Self is one of my favorites. Very short and sweet. Um, you know, we only get one life. It's a journey. And at the end of the day, when we finally learn and realize that we are the one controlling that journey, we're the one driving that road. It makes our life so, I'm not going to say easier, but it makes it so much more enjoyable because we know who's driving. And as long as we know that we decide if we want to take this left or take this right or keep going straight, um, then we have a little bit more control of our happiness and where we're going in life, instead of trying to worry about taking this left because Tommy and Jane took the left and all that. So yeah, definitely that's the impact I want to leave, is be yourself. Don't give up. And even if you feel alone, no, you're not alone. There's someone out there that, loves you and that definitely is looking to support you. And again, that's one of the main goals with Fierce and Fearless, is to just let women know you're not walking a road by yourself. There is someone here for you.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for taking this time. And I think key takeaway for me is reminding us, right, to live fearless. I think that that is so important. So listeners, please make sure that you go and connect with Ciara on all the amazing things that she has going on. Go and pick up her books. I know you have some items that go along with the book as well. So we didn't mention that. And I want to give you an opportunity if you can just share about those products that you have as well.
Oh, as in like the mugs and all that we have.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we do have a couple of different mugs. We got some pens. We've also got some notebooks. We are in the process of trying to get a few more items like magnets and things like that. But yes, we do have some products that do go along with the book that I'm definitely excited to release soon as well.
Yes, absolutely love that. So if you're like, well, I don't read, but I connected with her story, well, will have something for you too. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for joining us. Listeners, I always make sure I say, when you listen, please leave us a comment, right? Share with us one takeaway from hearing the episode. Share this with someone who needs to hear it and needs that reminder to live fearless, and just that reminder to go and follow Ciara on social media, like, subscribe, share, and share. Until next time, take care.